welcome or welcome back to All the Things with me, your host, Amanda Fretch, the podcast where we talk about all things radical self-leadership, relentless personal growth, sprinkled with a side of magic. We are on episode 6, and strap in because we're going to get fiery, because I had wanted episode 6 to kind of go back and talk about the things in episode 5 that I said we would expand on, but that is just not going to happen today, because over the weekend, and I'm sure many of you listening saw the video out of Dallas Regional Medical Center of that absolutely poor woman in labor in the emergency department being, I don't even want to say triaged. We're going to give it some air quotes because that's not a triage, by that horrible fucking nurse, and then having her baby in the waiting room, in a wheelchair. And I wanted to dive into this a little bit more because I brought it up on my Instagram. And I, as a nurse, as someone who has been in healthcare for 15 years, as somebody that has spent the majority of her time in nursing in the emergency department, I feel like if I don't say something about this, I just feel like if you're not saying anything, right, silence is like, oh, you're okay with it. I'm not okay with this kind of shit. And I really reflected on this quite a bit over the weekend, because when I initially watched the video, right, she's clearly in distress, she's screaming, and for a second, I wanted to be like, okay, so this nurse is gonna just real quick figure out what's going on, right? Because, I, as somebody who has worked the ER for a long time, when you're in triage, sometimes you need to take a second and figure out what's going on. And I think that's just a basic expectation. I get it can be very difficult, especially if somebody's in distress, but I need like a word or two so I know what the right thing to do with you is. It's not because I'm trying to be mean, but I need a little bit of information if I can't see what's going on. Now, unfortunately, I think it was pretty clear what was going on, and she was being told over and over again what was going on, and yet did not do what she should have done, which was get that woman to labor and delivery. Like, why we have as much video as we do of what was happening can only be described as you were purposefully treating this woman that way. You were purposefully allowing her to be in that much distress, asking completely unnecessary questions. Like, what's going on, get her to labor and delivery. So I've done a lot of reflecting on this because, really, it was like I almost wanted to not believe that video. It's when you see somebody in your profession acting that way, you like, then it's like I don't even want to be associated, right? But let me back up. Let me. So, like I said, I did a lot of reflecting, because the emergency department is a hectic place, and working in triage can be very, very challenging. A lot goes on. A lot has to be done in a very short period of time from the time that patient walks in the door, and you're starting to assess them right off the bat, right? You're doing an across the room assessment, and sometimes it's not obvious, sometimes it is, and I think it's because there was a part of me that wanted to like give the benefit of the doubt, but it was so blatantly obvious that there's no room for that. Like, you just complete disregard for patient care, complete disregard for that woman, and the fact that you did not need to be doing that. She needed to be in labor and delivery, right? And it just, I'm so angry. I don't even have all of the words, but that's not the important part. The important part is talking about it and and getting out how incredibly wrong this is, because I just, right, like silence again, right? So first things first, as an ER nurse, I do not want you having your baby in the ER. Like, I really don't. It happens, but like, really, I don't want you having your baby in the ER. I want you up in labor and delivery. That's where you need to go. That's where all the specialists are. Like, yes, we have all those things down and available to us in the ER in the event that we need them, but like, I don't want to need them. I want you up there, especially if you're coming in telling me you need to go up there. I want you to go, and I want you to go now. And if I don't have somebody that can take you, then I'm taking you. Like, we don't, no offense, but we don't want you down here because that's not our area of expertise, right? That's what labor and delivery is for. And I think this talks about, on a bigger scale, a lot of what happens in the ER, which makes this so frustrating, is that, there's specialties for a reason, and everybody gets dumped in the ER. And I don't know that every hospital, not that I don't know, not every hospital does this the same way. And so what I don't understand, because my hospital does it too, where you have to check into the ER before you go up to labor and delivery. And I feel like there should just be a point where like this shouldn't be happening. You should just be going. And then I was thinking back on it for myself, with my first son. I don't remember checking into the ER. I just remember, not I just like I didn't check into the ER. It's not I don't remember. I didn't check into the ER. I'm sorry. I'm like, see, so worked up. I'm not thinking clearly. The process for that hospital was that I called. There was the OBGYN on call. So you would call the office, and they would connect you. And if it was like, okay, my contractions are 5 minutes apart, or whatever it was, and they'd say like, okay, yeah, it's time to come in. And you go up to L&D, right? I don't understand this stopping in the ER to get registered, to go up to labor and delivery to get registered again. Like, I will never understand that. Nobody could ever explain it to me in a way that I was like, yeah, that process totally makes sense. So I think that's the other thing. And, why, I mean, clearly it still happens. And I hate to say, I would love to think that, had that not been the process for that hospital, that she would have just been able to go right up to labor and delivery. Because if I'm remembering correctly, when we asked the very unnecessary question of who her doctor was, they said it was a doctor at the hospital. So like, but I digress on that. So nobody's been able to give me a good answer. Somebody wants to give me a good answer. I don't think you have a good answer, honestly. I don't think there is one. I think it has something to do with insurance and billing, and quite honestly, I get that hospitals are businesses, but I think it's a load of bullshit. So we'll just say that right there. The other thing too that's so scary about this is this completely shows your patient care. And this is not only can we guarantee that it's not the first time that this nurse has acted like this, because if you look, there's other videos of her. But if this is how you're treating patients of color, I guarantee you're doing it all the time, that there's just no exception, and you're just a horrific fucking person. And I guess my brain just doesn't understand racism. Like, you're just a person to me. Like, it's not like I don't see color, but like, I don't see color. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're a human. And as a nurse, my job is to take care of you and advocate for you, which we were watching clearly was not happening, right? Like, you're asking unnecessary questions. You're drawing out your questioning. Like, why? Like, the only reason you're doing that is because you are wanting that woman to be in distress. Otherwise, you would you know, you're calling your charge nurse and like, and I guess that's the other thing too. Like at that point, like you didn't want to call your charge nurse and let her know you got a code pink going on out front. Or you, I mean, really, like your call should have just been right to labor and delivery. Like, hey, we're sending her up right now, right? And either you're getting off your ass and you're running that patient upstairs, or, you know, if you have, depending on how you have things set up, then you have a PCNA or a medic or somebody that can run that patient up and get them out of the department. I just don't understand. And the thing about it is it's not like an isolated incident. This happens more than we know, and you have to think about resources that patients have and ability to speak up. And, you know, not everybody has the ability to do that. Not everybody has somebody with them, is the other thing too. Can you think about if that woman wouldn't have had her mother with her and she would have just been there by herself? Because that happens, right? Like it's just, there's not even words for that, but I mean, that's a real thing, right? That's absolutely unacceptable and completely disgusting. And then it's kind of like, what did you go into nursing for? Because here's the thing, I'm very honest, like I wanted to take care of people and I wanted to help people, right? But like as I've gone on in my career, I'm like, okay, you know, this is good. I've done what I set out to do in this career, but I want to help people in a different way. And I think this is the important thing where you need to be really honest with yourself. You know, if that's not your jam, do something else. There's a lot of, here's what I will say too. There's a lot of opportunity in nursing. So if you get to a point where you're like, I just don't want to take care of patients anymore, understandable. Go do something else. But I guess then we have to talk about the fact that maybe that is what she wanted to do. Maybe she is the kind of person that just wanted to torture people, because unfortunately, there are people like that exist. And the scary thing is they do exist in healthcare. And I don't even know how we talk about that, because, you know, you want to believe that everybody in healthcare is a good-hearted person. And I think we have a lot of really good-hearted people in healthcare that really want to make a difference and really want to help other people. But some people are just there for a paycheck. But I would even take somebody that is just there for a paycheck over what we saw happening. Because if you're really there to hurt somebody, right? And you want to see distress and pain inflicted on them, as she clearly showed she did, right? And, you know, I wanted to like make the devil's advocate argument of like, well, you know, as ER triage nurses, like we have to really remain calm so that we can, you know, make sure that we're properly assessing the situation, and that, you know, we're not causing more anxiety and panic, right? Like that's part of what you have to do. You have to remain calm, but that is just not what we saw. That's just not what we saw. And it breaks my heart that is what so many of us have watched, and that this is, you know, it needed to be, all things that need to be exposed will be exposed, right? But God, that's just, it's not okay. So I wanted to kind of go off about this, because it's just, it really, you know, it hit home and had me do some really, really deep reflecting on my time in the ER especially, and just thinking like, there is no capacity in me to understand that, how that happened that way, why that happened that way. And then just to think like, oh my God, like you are lumped in with the same group of people that I am, with the name or with the title nurse. You know, not the same group of actual people, but when we think about people by their careers, right? Like, you know, it doesn't make you feel proud to be a nurse at all when this is what's being shown, you know? And when we know that this is out there and this is happening. So again, even more reason to speak out. And, you know, this nurse is not okay with that kind of shit. It's not. I remember that when I was in nursing school, and I was working as a nursing assistant, there was this really great nurse that I worked with, and I don't even remember exactly what the situation was, but I just remember she said, the patient said something. We were on a med-surg floor, and she said, I think the patient like mistook what she said, and she goes, no, I'm not saying I don't care. She goes, if I ever become that kind of nurse, then that's my time to leave nursing, right? And I, like, sometimes you just have to know, you know, when it's time to go, right? But I don't think, unfortunately, like, even though I've said that twice now, because I think in my heart, I just want to believe, like, you would know, like, this isn't it. But, you know, it's just pure evil. And like, how there's nothing, like, that's the other thing that you have to understand about, especially staff in the ER. Like, we have to watch the most horrific and traumatic things. And we deal with patients in their absolute worst moments. And yeah, a lot of times we have to remain pretty stoic. At least, you know, we're trying to hold it together to do what needs to be done in the moment. But like, you're never okay with any of it on the inside. And I feel like that's the other part that's getting like kind of almost like lost in translation, where I'm like, you know, somebody might see that and think that that's just how all ER nurses are, because whatever, it's just not. So anyway, I think that's all I want to say about this for right now. I'm really, like I said, if you follow me on Instagram, I am increasingly disenchanted with healthcare day by day. And it's so heartbreaking to see this. And then to think too about, you know, things like maternal mortality rates, which are already terrible in this country as it is, right? Like, we do a shit job. But then that rate is even higher for Black women. And then, like, we're seeing that, like, okay, like, you know, here's why. Here's part of why. There's just so much that's wrong and so much that needs to change. And I think the other thing that's so frustrating about all of this for me is having worked in healthcare for 15 years, and like, there's so much that needs to change that I couldn't even tell you where to start. It's like one of those, like, honestly, the only way that I can think to say it, and this is going to sound really terrible, is if you're a tarot person, it like healthcare needs a tower moment. It literally does all need to like crumble to the ground and be rebuilt the right way, because it's not here. I don't know that I can really think. I think there are some places in Europe that I can't like think of who has like such great healthcare. I want to say, is it Sweden? I'm trying to think of, I don't know. There's people that have done a far better job than us, and why we don't change things. And that'll get into a whole nother debate. And I'm, you know, sure somebody's going to say something about why I'm wrong. But the fact of the matter is this: we could be doing better, and we need to be doing better, and we're not. And it's so many things, from, you know, how healthcare is run, insurance, racism, because that's clearly what we were seeing in all of that. That wasn't even just, you know, that was just pure evil, purely racist bullshit that we were seeing. So, I hate to like have such a whatever, because I feel like usually we're pretty positive and but that's just how we are tonight, because I like I said, I've been reflecting on this, and I felt that I needed to speak out about it and against it, because it's I just don't even every time I try to like talk about it too, it's like so. Anyway, so sound off in the comments on this one. Let's have some conversation. Let's have some constructive conversation, though. Okay. We'll get back into some other things. And I do think that probably down the line, we're going to talk about some other things in healthcare again. I think it's about time we get some guests on here, because, I think it's time. So we'll grab some healthcare homies and pop them on. But yeah. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening to episode 6, listening to me be angry and spicy and sad and all the things all at once, because this was a lot and quite a ramble. So make sure that, like, subscribe, follow, all those beautiful things. Let's have some good constructive conversation around this one. And yeah. I will see you guys on Wednesday for episode 7. We will bring it back around and not be as heavy, I promise. But we had to talk about it. We had to. So, all right, guys. Love you all so much. Thank you for tuning in. See you next time.